No.
Hello everyone and welcome to Alexandra's Emirati food show. We will have another half hour, 40 minutes of absolutely wonderful Emirati food experience. I hope that you're all on board. I'm not quite sure. I think we're going to wait a little while. I'm going to introduce you, although you will not see him, my cameraman. My cameraman is my son, Nikolai. I'm going to ask Nikolai, how many are on board? 3 so far, 2 so far. Hello everyone. Hi. For those, welcome on board. Thank you so much for coming along. We're going to wait for some of the others. They'll be coming along very soon, and we'll be starting in about 1 or 2 minutes. You've noticed that it is a different background. My son is just going to give you a short glimpse of our backyard. The reason being is that today we have lovely, lovely weather, and with lots and lots of green, although we are in a very, very dry area. And the only reason why it's green is because we are watering it from the ground. Otherwise, it'd be totally dry, actually. And now my cameraman, how many are on board?
8.
8. Hello to all 8 of you. Nikolai, can you read me the names, please?
I don't see them. They're not.
Yeah, you can actually click and then you can see the names.
No.
Okay, well, the names will appear soon. The reason why I'm showing you the garden, because next show, weather permitting, I'm going to be giving an Emirati food show outside with a fire in an Iranian fire tub. And we'll be making, I'll surprise you, something quite nice and very simple to make in your kitchen. But not today, that'll be the next time. Okay, so slowly we're going to be going into the kitchen. I'm going to ask the cameraman to follow me, or I'm going to follow my cameraman actually. So for those of you who actually are seeing my incredible mess or our warehouse, there's a very, very good reason for this. We've had, unfortunately, a flood downstairs, so we've had to move upstairs, and we have our tenants upstairs, so we had to move everything into our ground level. So we have to make do with about 50 square meters, and there are 3 of us here. It's actually quite funny now. It wasn't funny in the beginning, and then after the flood, guess what? We experienced Corona. That means that our laborers are not coming. They're not coming to fix, repair, do anything for the next couple of months. So we're going to be living like this for a little while. And in the background, you'll see, again, all our belongings from the basement or from our lower level, not basement, but from our lower level house behind me. That's going to be for a little while until things are back to normal. If there's ever a normal in our household again, I don't think so. Okay. I'm going to ask my camera, how many are we now? Fantastic. Okay, I'm not sure who's on board, but I'm going to say hello to absolutely everyone. And for those of you who know me, hello. And for those who don't know me, hello as well. And I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Alexandra von Hahn. And I'm going to introduce myself all the time because they're always newcomers. And my father is a German Balt or Baltic German. My mother is Hungarian. I was born in Santiago de Chile in South America, next door to Argentina. And I attended a dual school, a German and Chilean, or Castilian, but actually Chilean school, until I moved to Canada when I was about 10 years old. So that's it, quite an interesting background, and we never rested in one place. Neither have I during my adult years. In other words, after my university years, I worked for the Canadian government, and I met my German husband, who is a German diplomat, and we've been covering the Middle East predominantly, as well as Iran. And our last posting was the United Arab Emirates. And that was that posting when I decided I'm going to put together a cookbook and give Emirati food cook shows. Okay, once again, how many are we on board before I start?
6.
6 so far. Okay, I'm going to start, nevertheless, For those of you who don't know, this is a channel that I'm on, or platform, that deals with holistic way of thinking, or mindful way of thinking, respectful with oneself and with others. And this is what Emirati cooking is all about. It's not that I am incorporating it into it. It's the Emirati philosophy and their culture. It's been like this for the last 80, 90 years, ever since the Emiratis, to that time they were called Bedouins, lived in the United Arab Emirates. They originally, not all of them, but many came from Yemen. And they had the same culture there where we lived. We lived in Yemen as well. It's a very, very soothing culture, grounding culture. It's a culture where you use all your five senses, and this is what it's all about with their food. You touch the food, you feel the food, you look at the food, and you even have to rattle it if it's possible, and so you can hear it. And you smell the food, which actually brings you to your next step. In other words, once you're activating your senses, you're in the flow. And the flow causes you to be grounded. It just helps you to ground as much as possible. And one of the reasons, not the only one, but one of the main reasons why many of the Emiratis still today, they cook outside of their home, meaning in the garden if they have, or in the desert, or on their farms, is to have their feet touch the earth, not physically in the house. It's a wonderful experience. Once you start cooking outside barefooted, which is what they do, or not, depending if you're in the desert, you certainly don't want to be bitten by a scorpion, but most of the time they're barefoot. It's a wonderful experience to feel that you're grounded. And before we start, what I have seen today is, what I have observed today is that due to Corona, of course, what else is there? Many of us are slightly agitated, or we're not terribly happy today. It's just one of these days. My neighbors, a friend of mine across the street, and when I went to the store, the people who I've known, today is just a very different day. So if that is happening with you as well, today, while we're cooking, is a time to switch. In other words, forget the world outside. Cooking is a sacred area. It's actually a very, very holy area. Creative area is the feeling of creation, and this is what we're doing today. I'm going to ask Nikolai to zoom in slowly into my book. I'm going to be cooking from my cookbook. I'm going to open up the page, and we're going to zoom in to the Emirati chebab. Chebab means Emirati, or in this case, pancake. The pancakes are not mixed the way the Europeans mix it, although it's very similar. And it's not eaten the European way. I'm going to show it to you also later on. It's mixed as always. If you've already seen me on my previous show, it's mixed with za'afaran, with cardamom, and turmeric or curcuma. And there's a reason for it. They want the color, they want the smell, they want the flavor, and they want to also touch, and to be able to touch, meaning on your tongue, to feel what is inside the pancake. Coconut. Sometimes they add very small pieces of date. Coconut is not grown in the United Arab Emirates, but dates are. So you can actually alternate. Either add a little bit of coconut just so that your tongue is able to feel the three-dimensional aspect of what you are eating. It's very strange what I'm saying, but it's a wonderful awareness. Once you start eating, you feel, I can smell, I can hear it if you can. This is while you're cooking, and especially when you can smell it and feel it on your tongue. Okay, I'm going to start mixing the chebab. And for those of you who have a pen and paper, then you can write down the recipe. If you don't, I'm still going to give you time to get yourself the paper and pen, or your notebook, whatever you wish. And if you're not able to, and for those of you who want the recipe, please let me know, and I'm going to be sending you the recipe this coming weekend. All right? Okay, here we go. Okay, what we're going to add, first of all, according to the recipe, is 1 cup of wheat flour. Now, you can add wheat flour. Here we go. For those of you who are gluten intolerant, you can certainly use your gluten-free flour for this recipe. You can actually just replace it, all right? And here we go. We have whole wheat flour, another cup. And by cup, I mean it's the American 8-ounce cup. There we go. And we're going to add now the dry ingredients. 4 tablespoons of coconut, shredded coconuts. By the way, what I'm using here are not only the shredded coconuts, but they're organic and they still have the original coconut flavor. If you were to buy the coconut commercially, meaning at any shopping mall or at a chain store, they don't necessarily have it. If you can get a hold of the organic coconut, shredded coconut, it's just wonderful. The flavors. Again, as always, if you rub it a little, there's a little bit of heat. And you can smell the coconut. It's the natural coconut. I'm not going to taste it now, but I tasted it before. It's just wonderful, exquisite. Okay. So we have here the recipe. The recipe that I have in my cookbook asks for 4 tablespoons of coconut. Emiratis love coconut. I'm putting in 2. It's 4. I think is a little too much for me, but 2 tablespoons. Okay. And then I'm going to also add cardamom, which is what gives it that wholesome taste, that complete taste. In other words, we'll say, is there anything missing in it? No, there isn't. So if you have nothing else, and if you have cardamom, you're saved. And it gives that oriental fragrance, taste, and just to know that you are smelling the cardamom in your pancake is just simply exquisite. So the olfactory or smelling your spices is very, very important, or very important for the Emiratis. Extremely important, and for the entire Gulf area, by the way. All right, it's a pinch. I'm going to give a little more than a pinch. Okay, there we go. This is cardamom powder, and if you want a little more, the way I like it, another pinch. Absolutely exquisite. Here we go. And then we're going to add our yeast. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, it's very difficult to obtain yeast for the time being. We've had issues with toilet paper. In other words, we were unable to obtain toilet paper for the longest time. I think it was 2.5, 3 weeks. We're now able to get toilet paper, but what we're not able to get now is yeast, dry yeast and fresh yeast. Very hard to get. So what do we do here in the former DDR where I live? I live in Brandenburg, which is the former DDR. We're now bartering. So in exchange for yeast, dry yeast, fresh yeast, in exchange, I give a cake, a Canadian cake. Isn't that funny? So bartering has never stopped here. Okay, so here I'm going to add yeast, dry yeast. We have here 1 tablespoon of dry yeast. And I'm going to now show you, I'm also going to be adding zaffaran. And I'm going to show you on my hands, which is much, much easier, how the zaffaran looks like. For those of you who have not experienced zaffaran. Here, the zaffaran must have a thicker end and very thin end on the other side. So a little thicker one end and very thin on the other side. Now, what I'm going to do, if you'd like to, this is one way, although this is not 100% accurate, but it's one way of testing whether this is authentic or not. Just to make sure that it's not plastic zaffaran that you're being sold. You can actually burn it and then smell it. But this here is another way. This is very, very natural. Now the heat of my hand will cause some of the etheric oils to come to the surface, or cause the fragrance to be brought to the surface. Just lovely. Slightly, just ever so slightly acidic, very, very little. It has a floral, but floral more into the direction of tobacco, but not quite tobacco, but it's heading towards there. But floral as well, and very light. There's nothing heavy about it. So I'm not going to throw this away. I'm going to just add it. In the recipe book, what is called for is 1 pinch. Well, I'm going to add just a little more. Now, one way of doing it is to use your mortar and pestle. I'm not going to use the mortar and pestle. I'm going to do it the way the Emiratis do. I said Iranian because I lived in Iran as well, and I gave birth to my daughter in Iran. Okay, here we go. I'm going to rub it. The flavors have now exuded to the surface. And here we go. Now, if you'd like to add more, you can, but you have to realize that this spice is the most expensive spice in the world. And this is what I have here. It's a whole box, which is very, very expensive, and it has to last for a year. So I'm going to follow the recipe to the T, which means just 1 pinch. If you'd like to add a little more, you can. And when you buy za'afaran, just make sure that your za'afaran, if you can, get it from Iran. And if it's not from Iran, then the quality Spanish za'afaran, because originally the Iranian za'afaran was grown in Spain. So in fact, you're not far away if you were to buy the quality Spanish za'afaran. Okay, I think we have another dry product. Yeast, cardamom, and turmeric. Here we go. We're going to go now to the spice box. We have here turmeric. Some of you know it under curcuma. Very healthy, absolutely wonderful. And according to the new protocol here in Germany, I am not to explain as to what it is really good for, but you can look it up in Google. Healthy it is. It's a power food, and you're going to add a pinch into the chebab or pancake mixture. Now, this is a little much, or you can add a little more if you wish. It's not only for the flavor. You're not going for the flavor, so watch out how much you put in there. You're going for the color. So what we're going to do is add half. So it's about half a teaspoon. Half a teaspoon is absolutely sufficient. If you go towards 1 teaspoon, then you're going to actually be able to taste the turmeric or curcuma, which is not bad, but if you love it, do it. All right? Okay, now I'd like to just pause for just a second. For those of you, all of us are in our homes or apartments or wherever we are, for the time being, we're not really able to enjoy our life outside of our own homes, apartments, or rooms. Now, having said that, for those of you who feel, oh my goodness, what am I going to cook tomorrow? What am I going to cook tonight or next week? This is a lovely, very, very simple dish. And for those of you who don't have the spices at home, doesn't matter. If you have cinnamon, just add the cinnamon. For color, if you don't have the yellow color, then don't add any curcuma or turmeric. This is going to be without sugar, and I'm going to show you a little later, which is part 2, why it's without sugar. And for those of you who are at home and you feel that you are feeling alone and lonely, you're not going to. You will get your laptop and share it. Share that experience that you're having with a completely new recipe with someone else. Have that other person cook the chebab as well. So you're both cooking the chebab. And guess what? You can both enjoy it simultaneously. You sit down and you make a ritual out of it, which means you don't just sit down and eat it on a plate. I'm going to show you how you're going to enjoy it. And it's going to be the Emirati way. So this is a way of traveling for cultural purposes to, for example, I'm going to say Abu Dhabi. So Abu Dhabi is where I lived, the capital of the United Arab Emirates. Lovely, on the island, not off the island, but on the island. Okay, we'll continue with our recipe. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to mix the dry products, just making sure that my yeast and the spices are well mixed with both flours, and both flours have to be well mixed as well. Very simple. Just use a whisk, or if you don't have a whisk, then you can use a fork. All right, here we go. So we are now ready to add the liquid ingredients. Now, the liquid ingredients are 1 cup of milk, and guess what? I don't use milk. You can use half cream and 1/4 cup of cream and 1/4 cup of water. For those of you who are lactose intolerant, which means you cannot drink cow milk, you can go with any plant-based milk, such as almond milk, cashew milk, rice milk, oat milk, any milk or plant-based milk of your choice. So this recipe is very, very versatile. Okay, I'm going to pour it inside. There's lots and lots of cream inside. It's very, very, it is high in fat, 35% fat. Very exquisite, totally exquisite. Okay, and then I'm going to add also 1 egg. Here we go. And if you can, only if you can, try to get organic eggs. And if you can also support your local egg vendor, that would be just lovely. And if they are organic, they taste different. I can tell you that right away. Okay, and the whole concept of my program is, I call it, whether it's officially like that, I don't know, organic, clean food. It's also the food that is catered for our body. In other words, the organic food has a completely different DNA. It corresponds with our, it's not the same, but what it does, it complements our system, our metabolism. This is just a message, or the energetic message between our body, our digestive system, and clean food. Natural, clean food, back to basics. And if you can, if you can't, don't worry, you can always change peu à peu, little by little. All right, we have the liquids inside. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to mix it with the whisk, and I may have to change toward the fork. And I also have 3 cups of water. The water will come in. We will only add as much water as we need. So, just a second, I'm just going to show you. I'm going to mix the first part with the liquid, meaning with half cup of milk, which means 1/4 cup of cream with 1/4 cup of water, 1 egg, and we need more water. So what I have here are 3 cups. We will not pour all 3 cups. We will only pour as much as we need until we have reached the consistency of liquid cream. So I'm going to add the water. And if you have an electric mixer at home, you can use electric mixer. I'm using it, I'm doing it with the whisk. This is much easier for this particular program. Otherwise I'll have the motor running and it's going to be very loud. Okay, now I need more water. There we go, and we continue mixing little by little until we have reached the consistency that we need. And that is equal to or very similar to liquid cream. So there we go, and we're going to need just a little more water. So we're actually, we've used about 1 cup of water, and we'll add another ½ cup, and let's see if we need more. We may need more, and maybe not. And if there are lumps, don't worry about it. As long as you've whisked it until you've reached the consistency, if there's still lumps, don't worry about it. And many of these lumps are none other than the shredded coconut. Okay, there we go. Another ½ cup. So we've used, not 2 cups quite yet. I would say almost 2 cups of water. And again, with the water also, if you can, use filtered water or clean water, as clean as possible. It will change the flavor. If you have only access to water with a lot of chlorine, then try to leave the water overnight standing, although it will not be 100% free from the chlorine, but it will help a little bit. All right, no, this is not liquid enough. We'll just add a little more, and now we'll have used about 2 cups and a bit. Let's see here. There we go. So while you're whisking, this is where you, where I feel absolutely grounded. The more you whisk, you're actually doing something, you're moving, and you make sure consciously that your feet, if you happen to be barefoot in the kitchen, even better. And if you could, stand on your balcony. If you don't have a garden, then stand barefooted on the balcony. If you have a garden, or if you have somewhere spot with a bit of earth, just put your feet on and start whisking. It's just a wonderful feeling. You will forget the world and you'll be in a flow. This is absolutely wonderful. And what happens without realizing is that you're enjoying that moment, and that means self-respect. It's just a short moment of self-respect. Isn't that wonderful? It's a moment that we very seldom take during the day, or any time for that matter, to simply say, wow, I'm having fun, I'm enjoying this, I'm respecting myself. Very, very important. As many of the coaching companies or coaches would say, or for those of you who are coaches here as well, that we should love ourselves. Of course, but it's so hard to understand. And this is one way, through the food, simply feel, oh, I'm happy, I'm in the flow. And that's it, no more than that. There we go. It's just a moment, a beautiful moment, just to calm you down, or to calm us down, or to calm me down, since I'm very hyperactive. Okay, so we have reached the consistency of liquid cream. I'm just going to do the following. Just going to show it to you this way. You can also make it a little thinner if that's what you wish. If not, there we go. Here, if not, then you can leave it with this thickness. You can go a little thicker, but then it will not be the same as called for in the recipe. The pancakes are semi-thin. They're not very thick, but this is the consistency that we are looking for. I'm going to give you now a comparison. I've made one. I actually prepared a batch for this morning in order to be able to bake or cook actually these chebab or pancakes for you today. It takes about half an hour to allow it to rise, and then you can prepare or actually cook your chebab or pancakes. And just for you to show here, I used 1 whole teaspoon of curcuma or turmeric for the batch that I made this morning. And here I used half, and you can see the difference in color. So it's going to be your choice, either the more yellow or less. Okay, I'm going to put this away. It has to rise. In other words, it has to sit there for about 30 minutes, which we're going to eat tomorrow. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to heat up the pan, which is a non-stick pan. First of all, at a high temperature. And here we go. What I'm going to use, I don't use oil, although you can use any neutral oil of your choice, but very little. You're putting it on high first. Make sure it's a good quality pan, or any pan that you have at home. And you will then simply brush the area or the surface of your pan with a very thin layer of, in my case, I'm using raw coconut oil. There we go, and on the side as well, just in case. Although we're going to aim towards making too small. And this is the coconut. For those of you who have not baked, cooked, or fried with coconut, this is just one option. And it will taste slightly coconutty. And it works because you have coconut, shredded coconut here. It's organic, and it's quite strong as far as the taste is intensive, and the smell as well in comparison to the commercially available coconut, shredded coconut, which no longer smell like coconut at all. Okay, I'm going to put this away, and I'll be right back with you. Just going to wipe this off. There you go. All right. And you put your hands on top. If it's hot enough, then we can start making our chebab. It's a very interesting way of spelling it. Although, if you are going to be anyway traveling to the United Arab Emirates or the Gulf area, chebab is spelled in many different ways. Chabab, C-H-A-B-B-A-B, or C-H-B-A-A-B, which is like in my book. It's pronounced chebab. There we go. Okay, it hasn't quite reached the heat yet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask my son to come a little closer, and I'm going to show you the spice box. Now, for those of you who are into spices, you can actually make your own little spice box out of wood or out of plastic, or you order it through India, or you look anywhere else if that's what you want. Very easy. You just have these 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In the center, you have usually the hot spice, very, very, very spicy hot pepper, which is what the Indians love. This is the Indian spice box, if you're looking for it on Google. And the Indian spice box is the strong, strong influence that we find in the food culture of the United Arab Emirates. It's a fusion between Iranian cuisine and Indian cuisine. The Indian cuisine is relatively spicy, if not right up to very hot. And the Iranian cuisine works on a completely different system, meaning not spicy, very little. They use very few spices such as pepper, curcuma, and sometimes hot pepper, but very, very mild. And they have other spices that I don't have here. On the other hand, it's a balance. The Iranians, you're trying to find a balance of the food that will naturally exude all the flavors. The Indians, different. They add the spices in order to have the flavors come to the surface, which is very interesting. And the Emiratis, they fused both of these cuisines. Exquisite. Completely different cuisine, but you can actually tell that there is a fusion between these two cuisines. All right, it's quite hot now. I'm going to bring it down from high down to medium. Now, we're going to attempt, the first one may not work, and it's normal. So I'm going to just pour it, and this is what the Emiratis do as well as the Indians would do it, with a circular, very light motion. There we go. And you're going to allow it to have the bubbles come to the surface. I'm going to watch the bubbles. We're almost there, but not quite. See, I can slowly lift it. We're almost there, not quite. And it goes very, very fast, actually. Okay, see, it's becoming a little thinner along the side here. It's a little more raw on the left side, or my left side. Okay, I'm going to attempt to flip it. It might be too early, but I'm going to attempt it. Okay, 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, there we go. See, it actually worked out. And if you want it a little darker, then you can just bake it a little longer. And you will also notice that this chebab or pancake has lost some of its curcuma or yellow color. On your camera, it may seem more yellow than what it actually is. So if I show you the batter, this is how it actually is. Okay, I'm going to look at the camera. Here, if you come a little closer. Okay, there. That's perfect. That's how it should be. Oops. Okay, it actually, this is not yellow enough. Okay, there we go. Okay, and we're almost done. See, it's actually it's bubbling a little. We're almost done. I'm going to flip it one more time just to make sure. And we could just actually bake it a little longer. I'm going to raise the temperature back to 7, which is 75%. Whatever your 100% on your stove is, I'm using 75% of the heat. Okay, we're almost there. One more flip. Let's see. Okay, we're done. And I'm going to place it right here on my other chebabs that I've made before, just for you to be able to see it. And I'm going to make a few more. And you can also make 2 at the same time if you wish. There we go. One way of doing it. And a smaller one if you wish to have a smaller one. There we go. Now, these pancakes, I'm sure that you would love to eat it with chocolate, sugar, or with a coffee chocolate mousse, which is wonderful, or with an Italian chocolate cafe or chocolate mocha ice cream. Totally exquisite, delicious. But you have probably realized, or I may have mentioned it before, these pancakes or chebab do not have sugar in them. Very good reason, which you will add the sweetness if that's what you wish. Okay, I'm going to flip now this one over. I'm going to ask the cameraman to come a little closer. There we go, flip over. And you may want to have them a little darker, as I said before. I'm going to flip this over. You see the bubble surface at the surface, and there we go. Okay. When we speak of Emirati or chebab pancakes from the Gulf area, it's not necessarily for their dessert. Originally, this was soon after the oil crisis. Not the oil crisis, it's when the oil came into their country. I'm sorry about that. This is where flour or grain started to be imported from India and from other countries into the United Arab Emirates. And this is when the Emiratis decided, okay, then let's have a look as to what the Lebanese do, or the Europeans, Americans, what do they do with their grains? The first thing they wanted to do are the pancakes. And they were not necessarily used to eating lots of sweets. The sweet came from some of the herbs in their forest, or from the aquatic herbs. Some had just a slight sweetness in them, or from dates. I'm going to show you. I'm going to ask my son to come really close to the dates. These are the original Emirati dates, which I can now buy in Berlin as well. I live in just outside of Berlin, in fact, in Brandenburg. Oh, sorry about that. We'll have to get the other one. I'm going to remove this nib. There we go. And I'm going to open it. And this is what the Emiratis enjoy. They removed the pit, but they kept the pit in order to roast and make coffee out of it. So this is what they would do. They would mash this, or have pressure applied on all their dates, on their harvested dates, so that the syrup will exude out of it. And they would then use the syrup to be drizzled on top of their chebab. Okay, now our chebab are ready. They're a little darker. You can have them a little darker. They're wonderful. Here we go. This is exactly how the Emiratis love the pancakes or chebab. Now I'm going to put it right here on top. There we go. So I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to go to part 2 of my story. So this is going to be a little thinner, and the thinner they are, the quicker they actually cook. Another way of doing this is this very Indian influence, when you actually go in a circle and you don't apply too much pressure. There we go, see? So you have more or less, you have a little bit of the batter in the center, bring it to the sides, keep turning, and we're done. We have a very large one now. It's quite unusual. Emiratis usually go for this size. I'm going to take it with my hands. This is more or less the size that they have. And here I have a larger one. This is going to be optional for you. So you're not going to be able to see the bubbles except for in the center. I'm going to flip it over. There we go. And leave it there. It's almost done. This goes very, very fast. Meaning this is easy, it's fun, tastes wonderful, has spices in it. It's different from what we are all used to. It's something new, and you can share it with your friends. Okay, once I flip this, I'm going to switch off the heat, and we're going to go to part 2 of how to eat the chebab. Let me just check this if this is done. It's almost done. See, maybe you can listen to the noise. This is what I mean. This is what the Emiratis like to hear. This is when they know that it's done. Done. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to just remove it from the heat. There we go. And switch the heat off. And here comes the fun part as well. Part 2. This is a ritual. Why have I composed all this? This is how Emirati families, they will try their absolute best to give the fullest respect to their guests or to themselves. What is important is that before they eat, they have already prepared the layout of their table. It's usually a sadarut, which means it's like a tablecloth made from a natural product. It's on the floor. You sit around that particular circular tablecloth, and that arrangement here will then be placed on that circular tablecloth. Today's often it's plastic, but it's important. What is important? You see the circular arrangement, which means we are all equal. We are all equal in the eyes of God. For them, for the Muslim is Muhammad.
No, Allah.
Yes, Allah, as my son would say. It's very important. There's a circular plate or platter. Here, circular as well. Here, circular as well. We have circular here as well. Here's another one, also in circle, and this is also round. What has to be, since chebab was actually eaten predominantly as a snack between breakfast and lunch called foualla, or between lunch and dinner called foualla. And I will go into a more detailed fouala next time. That's going to be all part of our many, many workshops coming ahead. And we also have the incense. The incense is there for a very good reason, which I'm going to explain to you in my next workshop, or I think my third or fourth workshop. The incense, we have the dates, and I'm going to ask my son or the cameraman to come a little closer. Here we have honey, and the honey is also organic. It's from black honey from Fujairah. Fujairah is very close to the Strait of Hormuz, which is where I got the honey from. It's the most expensive honey ever. A half a cup of this black honey produced by black wild bees in Fujairah costs about 25 euros. So this is actually this is black gold for us, not oil, but honey. And here we have the other black gold, which is becoming very expensive in the United Arab Emirates and around the Gulf area, as well as in Saudi. That is date syrup, and it's date syrup of higher quality. Here we have, so from the United Arab Emirates, actually from Abu Dhabi, which I can now get in Germany as well. It's a city called Al Ain, and in Al Ain is from where the royal family comes from. The royal family in the United Arab Emirates. In Al Ain, there's a smaller city called Al Fouah, and Al Fouah is where the date farm is. So if you ever have the chance of traveling to the United Arab Emirates, to Abu Dhabi, try to go to Al Ain, which is about an hour and a half by car. It still belongs to Abu Dhabi, and ask your driver to bring you to the Al Fouah date farm. They are partially organic and partially not organic. The organic part, I took a tour at the farm, is on the wall of the side of the Omani side. And that's very, very, very interesting. Lots of snakes, little teeny snakes. So make sure you wear high boots. Okay, so, and then we have, I'm going to explain also white cream cheese. And I'm going to pour the Emirati coffee, which is not like our coffee. I'm going to explain it a little later. And the spices and our chebab. The chebab, the red berries, these are barberries or zereshk, called in Farsi, in Persian language, called zereshk. And zereshk is very similar, although not the same, by no means, similar only to cranberries. It's less greasy. It's actually not greasy at all. It's sour, delicate, elegant, and just simply exquisite, which you can eat with your chebab if you wish, with almost anything, or in your breakfast. It's a power food. It's a very, very high in vitamin C, and you can look it up in Google as to what health benefits it has, and you can eat it on rice, but that could be also another workshop. Okay, now I'm going to show you how would an Emirati eat this as a fouala, as a snack between breakfast and lunch, or between lunch and dinner. However, I must note that the Emiratis today, they eat this also for breakfast. They love that. Or as a lunch substitute if there is no time, or dinner and a midnight snack. Although the Muslim world is now celebrating Ramadan, so this is eaten at night after sundown. So one way of eating it, this way. I'm going to take my right hand, just tear a small piece. That's one way of eating it. And I'm going to dip it into the black honey. There, a little more than that. There we go. A little bit of the cream cheese on top. And also some nigella. Nigella or nigella, which is, they call it black sesame seed, but it's not sesame seed at all. Here, I'm going to add some of the black seeds. Very strong in flavor. For those of you who don't know what nigella is, have a look, Google, N-I-G-E, nigella, L-L-A. I'm going to give you the French name, which is, just a minute here, oui, grain de calongie. So if you're speaking French, or if you're more familiar with this, grain de calongie, lovely. It just goes so well with it. So that's one way. You can also, and then you eat it like this, which is you point it, and you don't eat it with a fork and knife. You eat it like this. You just don't touch your lips. You eat it with your hands and with full respect. I'm going to, just exquisite, delicious. And you will also notice that I've placed a fork and knife. That's for you to know also, to signal that you can also eat it with fork and knife if you so wish. The Emirati way is with your hands. Okay, now here's another. I'm going to tear a little larger piece. This one piece, and you're actually using your 4 fingers and your thumb here, is called logma, which is one mouthful. Full respect is part of their protocol, part of their etiquette, a cultural etiquette. This is too large because it may not fit fully, which means you have to, it's a full mouth. So I'm going to tear this in half and hide the other part. And there, on a respectful small piece. And according to the Emiratis, what I have learned is that Muhammad has left many legacies. One of the legacies is to have your stomach only filled 1/3 with food, 1/3 with water, and 1/3 with air. It's called weight management. It's called diet. It's called respecting your body and respecting the food where it comes from. And you also respect the farmers. Emiratis were their own farmers. They were very sustainable. They never threw food away, and they did not stuff themselves, according to the notes that I have read at the National Library. They respectfully ate only as much as they were able to eat, or a little less than they actually wanted. This is in order to stay slim. And this we're talking about 60 years ago. So one, it's called a mouthful, not a handful, but it's a respectful handful. So I'm going to show you another way. So here, which is absolutely exquisite, date syrup. And no doubt the cheese has to be, oops, it's going to slip here. There. And the more cheese, the better it is. There we go. I just dropped a small piece of cheese. I'm just going to put it back. There we go. Okay. With your right hand. The left hand is left for hygiene purposes. All right? So you're using only the right hand. And again, so while you're talking to the others, you have to be just very careful. Let the others talk, and you can eat. And you eat in such a way that your mouth is not full. It's hardly noticeable that you're actually eating. So just let me wash my hands and I'll be right back with you. Okay, I'm back again. During Ramadan time, when they're actually eating their chebab or any other, or without the chebab, they may just have bread and do the same thing. Add the golden or the black honey, the date syrup, the cheese, the dates. 3 dates replaces 1 meal because of the high level of protein, power food, and it's sweet as well. And what you can do, if you're, what I'll say Emiratis absolutely enjoy, eating dates. And what type of date do I have here? I'm going to show you. Again, it's from the same company in Al Ain, or in Al Fawah, the city in Al Ain. This a crown company. And the date type that I have here, which I love very much, is Khenasi. And Khenasi has a balanced sweetness for me. It might not be for someone else. It's they're small, they're dark, not too sweet. They're not as soft as majoul. Most people like the majoul, which is the most expensive date, absolutely going. Anywhere between 40 to 50 euros a kilo if you want the organic majoul from Saudi Arabia. They have one of the best in Saudi Arabia, as well as in Abu Dhabi, but it's difficult to get the majoul in Abu Dhabi. They export a lot of it. Okay. Now, when you're eating dates, why? The breakfast does not go without coffee, just like us. So we're going to pretend that this cup does not have an ear, because the Emiratis do not have coffee cups like the European. It's all without an ear, but my coffee cups are, they're hidden and packed in one of the boxes behind me because of the flood that I experienced. So I'm going to pour out of the dalla, this is called a dalla, not a coffee pot, a dalla, the Emirati coffee, which I made just before the show. It's very light in color. I'm going to ask my son to zoom in. And it's only filled 1/3 way. Again, this is to show the sign of respect, diplomacy, and invitation that you have invited the guest with honor. You're honoring the guest who has come to you. And if you don't have a guest, your own family is going to be replacing the guest, which means you honor them as well. And if you don't have guests and you're on your own, as the Emiratis, whom I have interviewed for my book, have said, no, we don't fill it, we respect ourselves. If we don't have anyone else, we apply the same respect to ourselves. Isn't that lovely? So we have, and you don't drink it down. This is an enjoyment. It's actually, you just sip it and you enjoy it while you're eating it together with a date. So I'm just going to show you. You hold the cup in your right hand. And since you have two things, you have to hold your date in your left hand. A small sip. About 1/2 teaspoon. Since Emirati coffee is without sugar, never was and never will. You bite into it. Just a small amount of date. And this is how it works. The combination of Emirati coffee and date, delicious, delectable, absolutely delicious. So, and then we can continue eating. And again, there's a circular reason here, and that is if you are alone, you can start with a date, go on to the honey, to the date, and always have it with cheese if you so wish. Why do I have the incense here? The incense here, sorry, is here in order to cleanse the room, to cleanse the clothes, and to cleanse the energy according to the Emiratis. And I've been doing this now for over 50 years. They've used the word energy to remove the negative energies that other people bring in. It balances them, and what it does, not only them it balances, but it removes all their negative energies. Should the negative energies still remain with the guest will most likely never be invited again. Meaning, how does the guest display his or her negative energy? Could be that they're aggressive, that they're bad-mouthing other people, or they're not being helpful, not being respectful. And there is a message, meaning that another coffee etiquette rule. There's the movement of the cup, where you place your cup, how you hold your cup, how you pour the coffee, will signal to the host, this guest has a problem. And that's when the host will have to decide to either speak to the guest and ask for an assembly on the spot, or deal with the issue later. So this is what it's all about. That particular etiquette has stayed until today. So if you're traveling into the United Arab Emirates, you're going to be welcomed. You're going to be welcomed, although I don't know what's going to happen after Corona. So please don't quote me. But until just before Corona, everyone who walks into the United Arab Emirates and walks into the store or to the hotel, or is hopefully also invited or lucky enough to be invited, you're going to be asked to sit down and enjoy the Emirati coffee, a sign of respect. And just learn a little bit before about the etiquette. Absolutely. It's a very subliminal way of communicating with the host and signaling also that you respect the host, or if you don't respect them, you're going to signal differently. But I think I would nevertheless signal that I respect the host. Sorry. Okay. So what we have covered today, we've covered actually quite a bit. We've covered how it always has to be pretty, or in such a way that it's respectful for yourself. If you're going to be copying this recipe, very important, any dish that you have at home, don't just put it on the table. Put a candle. Instead of the incense, put a candle, a light, napkin, fork and knives if you don't want to use your hand. and place your dates or honey or marmalade if you have nothing else. We don't have dates everywhere. Just put it in a circle, in a circular design. Some spices. Put your pancakes there. Even if they're cold, you can eat them warm or cold. So it's absolutely lovely. And you can also freeze the batter. And you can also freeze your chebab. So having said this, I'm going to slowly come towards the end. But before I come towards the end, I'm going to ask my son if you see any names.
Yes, Sabine Achenbach.
Ah, Sabine Achenbach. Hello, Sabine. Wie geht's dir? Sabine Achenbach was also in the United Arab Emirates with me. I think Sabine was much longer there. I was there for 5 years, and Sabine, I think you were there for 10 years or something like that. German-speaking community. Anyone else?
Ludmila Ozerov.
Oh, hello, Ludmila. She's from La Clabelle from Montreal. For those of you who don't know, I'm Canadian as well. And we share cottages. And we're very close to some of the cottages up north of Montreal. Hello, Ludmila. Hi. And who else is there?
Anna Maria de Billis.
Oh, Anna Maria de Billis. Hello, Anna Maria. Hello.
Joseph Balor.
Hello, Joseph. Hello.
And
we don't see all the names. We only see a few names, unfortunately, tonight. But for all those whom I have not mentioned here, hello, and thank you so much for being on board and enjoying. I hope you've enjoyed my cooking presentation. It's more of a cultural, it's mindful, it's holistic, all in one, and it's intuitive. So allow yourself to just work intuitively when you're cooking and forget the world outside. And thank you so much for being on board. And thank you, Gaetano and his team, for allowing me to be on your platform. Absolutely fabulous. Thank you and goodbye.